Those are the real bad guys too, by the way. The law enforcement are just the most conspicuous. That's why they get talked about and shared so much on social media. But the real enemies above them.
I have seething hatred for hypocrisy. Shut your mouth, you're about to go to jail. You guys are embarrassing yourselves. You guys are clowns. Knock it off. The power and the success that you have on your YouTube channel. The fuck are you talking about law enforcement for? You have no idea what you're talking about. I have had the pleasure of having some incredible people join me for podcasts and have discussions about the law enforcement culture, and this is going to be a big one today. LackLuster from YouTube, and it's Attorney Shield. This is awesome. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out to have this conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Nobody ever asks. It's weird. I don't say no.
No, you don't. That blows me away. I literally asked you, and I think it was a day and a half later, 2 days later, you're like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, all right. You would think that somebody with your reach would have a massive backlog, but for you guys out there, get this guy in your podcast. Let's go. He says yes.
It's so funny.
You're over 1 million followers on YouTube, and it blows me away how I've changed. If I had seen someone like you back when I was actively a cop and I watched like the power and the success that you have on your YouTube channel, I would have been like, the fuck are you talking about law enforcement for? You have no idea what you're talking about. I would have been very defensive over it. But what blows me away is like that seed. The military background I think is important. Definitely to have for a law enforcement background. And then even even in the fire services, that's a civil service job. You still have some standing and you know what you're doing on it. And then you have the interactions with being a police, with the police. I can't imagine, every time somebody has a horror story about law enforcement coming in and ripping you out of school or doing whatever. And then the old me always goes, well, what did you do? What did you do? And the older I get and the more I start to critique and the more that I start to really kind of expose what goes on in law enforcement, I have to ask myself, how many times, was I the handcuffer and somebody thought the same thing? I didn't do anything. And I had all the evidence required and the probable cause was righteous and they went to court and I never did anything. I never thought about it afterwards. The more powerful voices to people who are doing this, it's making a difference. You got started on this. Was it an instant overnight blowing up of support or was there a trial and error period where you're like, man, I shouldn't be doing this police content? Did you have a strong bias? Did you have a certain way you were going? What was the path to go from Dale into becoming LackLuster? What was that like?
No, that's a good question. That's interesting because with that history of military, fire department, everything else, I was essentially deeply rooted into the mechanism of the state. I was part of the machine, and I would defend it just like anybody else. If you go look at what are some of those police activity in Midwest and all that, fuck around and find out and all this stuff, and like I had no clue, no idea what I was talking about. Even after having served, I had no idea what the oath meant. Nothing. And I think as a young man too, especially in my 20s, I like most young men, I think I had an affinity for violence. Wanted to be a part of it, know what it felt like, and all of that. So I had to go from that to where I am now, and that's a major change. I mean, some serious cocooning and steeping in something to come out the other side like this. But
was there a pivotal moment where it's like you have one or two sides for the most part that we see? We either see the ACAB, all cops are bastard sides, or the bootlickers, and there's really rarely anybody in between. Like when I started doing YouTube, I wanted to solve the problem, and I wanted to show, man, I love the profession of law enforcement, but my approach is negative reinforcement and tough love. You guys are embarrassing yourselves. You guys are clowns. Knock it off. Get your shit together. When you do this content, how do you control emotions? How do you look at things objectively as a citizen? You know, it's easy for me to call out really crappy police behavior because in my view, it will never be accepted. I did the job. I can say, dude, you are a horrible piece of shit human being and an even worse cop. When you do this and you see things, especially through the lens of a citizen, how do you control your emotions with seeing some of the most horrible stuff that you post online?
Um, yeah, I I think that took a lot of learning. My wife is a genius. You'd probably really like her. She hasn't made content in a while. Her name is Jennifer Molesky. You can look her up later, but on YouTube it's Jennifer Molesky. She she oh, man, she is always working my brain and helping me shape it. And I think I think a lot of times I'll go to her with my initial reactions and the explosive energy of like, what the like line these guys up against a wall,
Mm.
like that, those type of feelings. She gets the brunt of that. And she's taught me over the years really how to tone that down because it's not receptive to somebody who's not there with you already. If you're if you're yelling and screaming about something, if they're not already feeling that emotion, they're gonna kind of be a little repelled by it, that negative magnetic energy. Whereas if you can kind of come down to their level, if they're looking objectively, you have a better chance of working your way in and making contact with that individual. So I think that's why I made the decision to make it in this format. I don't know, it just kind of made sense to do it that way. But no, I still have those feelings. It's
I would have to assume so because you paid me a compliment. You know, you support my content. One of the first times ever I saw one of your comments on a video of mine, I was like, oh, that's a landmark. So when I see people like you that are out there, it's like I'm measuring myself of I want your respect, but I don't want to be just like you. And I
Mhm.
want to put my content out there. So I'm glad to hear that you do have, like the rest of us, that gut punch reaction to seeing some of this law enforcement content and going, this is unacceptable.
Yeah, it takes all different types. Have you ever seen Clash with Bao?
I don't think I have.
So Clash with Bao, he's he's a bit over the top, a lot of cussing and strange behavior. I love it. I love it. It's some of my favorite stuff. Um, and some people hate it and think like, oh, you're making auditors look bad. Not necessarily specifically him, but people who might, just scream a ton of obscenities towards an officer. Oh, you're making auditors look bad. You're hurting the movement and all this stuff. And I kind of disagree that in a few ways. Number one, you need to pull in as many people as possible to learn this because it's so important that something changes. So we have to find the people that my voice is going to reach. We have to find the people that Bao's voice is going to reach and Chili's voice is going to reach for that matter. Um, so having the variety is great just for attracting the crowd. But not only that, these officers also need to be stress tested by every sort of imaginable scenario. I know that training isn't necessarily always like sterile, but the drill tower or whatever, the police academy isn't the same as the street, and no matter how they try to mimic something in the academy, it's not going to be the same. Things are going to be so much weirder in the real world. And so to have that, like, wide variety of weirdos with cameras, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, we didn't have
Oh,
it when I was on. We had Nextels. Those were our phones, right? The
yeah.
chirping things, and we didn't have the iPhones and all that stuff. And it wasn't even, I left and we had iPhones, but nobody was doing this. Nobody was coming up and recording. And even if they were, it was never the only time I ever had anybody film me on a traffic stop was we had four gang members out. We ran some really quick detail. Got four gang members out and Guy was recording me on the parking lot, on the side of the road, and he was maybe 10 feet from me. And I said, hey, do me a favor. You're good to film? Just stay right there. All good. Film all you want. And that was it. Talk about LackLuster, the YouTube channel that everybody needs to go and subscribe and support.
Woo. Yeah, Lackluster's been yeah, it's Lackluster's been really, really interesting. It's a dream. Very surreal. Like I didn't expect it to blow up like this. Because I'm just kind of a dumb, ordinary dude, and I just do shit, and I think that's always kind of been the secret to life for me is just go do something and produce. But yeah, otherwise the channel's been great. I I I wake up wanting to do it, and I think that's another part of the secret to life is go do something and make it what you love and
Over
go
a
keep doing it.
thousand videos. Your content is very, very well produced and thought up and researched and put together. 1.32 million subscribers. It's fantastic.
It's wild.
If you could change anything, again, I want to go back to this for a second. I want to close this out with a solution. What do you feel is imperative between the police and the public they serve to improving the relationship between two of them?
Man, the one thing I'd have to flip a coin on it, and it would have to be somewhere. No, I think I would lean towards unions, getting rid of the unions. I think that's probably the biggest issue. I you cut the money off, and it'd be a lot easier to control. And I think people tend to forget police are the fucking government.
Mm.
And the government is supposed to fear the people, not the other way around. And at the moment, they have all of the control, they have all the power from, and not just them, but all the shitbags above them, the lawyers, the prosecution, the the courts, all the judges going through the state, federal, everything. And those are the real bad guys too, by the way. The law enforcement are just the most conspicuous. That's why they get talked about and shared so much on social media. But the real enemies above them. Um, but I think if you cut that money off, I think we'd probably start to see some real change. Uh, but I could be way off.
No, I don't think you're off. I think it's a fantastic start, and it does blow me away when people have no idea how powerful judges are. They're invincible.
Yeah.
They're untouchable. It's
Yeah, we
so
talk about
ridiculous.
that qualified immunity, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I hate
Yeah,
doing that, but
you're
man,
fine.
their immunity is insane.
They
It,
it's I my biggest thing in life is I have seething hatred for hypocrisy. I drink maybe once every 2 years, and I can't stand how many cops I know throughout the years who are drunk drivers with
Yeah.
their pistols on them, and they have no problem. Just that's where I'll get stopped, professional courtesy. I think that they're the worst human beings on the planet are cops who drink and drive. There's no redeeming qualities in them as a human being. And you have our judges who they can do whatever the fuck they want, and they impose their will via sentences on people they want with based off of the testimony of cops. It's a horrible.
Yeah.
It's the best system in the world, but it's so broken. It's ridiculous. Yeah, Dale, I can't thank you enough for your time. I could keep going another hour, but I want to be respectful of your time. I definitely want to have you back on in the future. LackLuster.
Absolutely.
I'm going to pull this up again for everyone to see. This is LackLuster, the YouTube channel. I have so much value in this channel. I think that you guys should go and check it out yourself for some fantastic, truly unbiased education. You're going to get a very well thought, even toned. It's not like me yelling and screaming at the friggin' microphone for stuff. And then Attorney Shield, attorney-shield.com, attorney-shield.com. I think this is a phenomenal tool that at the very least, yes, what it does is it puts cops on the best behavior. And that's sad that we need that, because they say nonstop, we hold ourselves to a higher standard. Yeah, well, until you get Attorney Shield on the phone, then all of a sudden you're holding yourself to a higher standard than that. So it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lackluster on YouTube, attorney-shield.com. I can't thank you enough for your time, Dale. I appreciate this. I look forward to having you on again. Guys, don't forget to join us Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. We do body camera footage review, law enforcement footage review, open up the phones for you. You guys can call in and voice your opinions. Again, if you agree with me, disagree with me, awesome. Stay the fight. Stay in there. Disagree with me all you want in the comment section. Call up. You've heard I take dissenting conversation very well.
They're great. They're
I love
fun.
to have fun with it. But I can't change cop culture. The only thing I could do is bring up conversations, and hopefully we can together. Guys, have a great damn night. Be safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks, Dominic.